Hi besties, welcome back to my channel. Fasten your seatbelt folks, because this week's Sister Wives melodrama is otherworldly, so the gossip going around, and trust me, this is coming from various insiders, is that TLC finally terminated Robyn Brown's contract. That is correct. Robyn, the self-proclaimed favorite wife, may no longer have a secured spot in the next season, and of course, this seemingly placed Kody in total meltdown mode. I mean, the man reportedly busted up in court. Now, before we get going, I have to deal with something that has been driving me nuts. There has been this influx of clickbait videos that have come out recently, stating that Robyn got a massive payday or that TLC made her a spin-off offer, guys. That is not true. There is no spin-off. There is no backroom deal. In fact, what actually is happening in the background seems to be the exact opposite. TLC is tired of the Robyn and Kody saga because, truthfully, the viewers are tired of it. Ratings drop each time they attempt to make us sympathize with Kody. And can we talk about that? For years, the network treated Robyn like she was the main attraction. She cried. She fought for Kody. She had the big house. And meanwhile, the other wives out there were starting over. Well, now suddenly the tables are turning. Sources are saying that TLC executives have been rethinking the entire dynamic because viewers are siding more with Janelle, Christine, and even Meri lately. But what's really shocking is what happened next, because apparently when Kody got wind that Robyn's deal might be ending, he lost it. We're talking full on meltdowns, lawyers, tears, the whole thing. He reportedly tried to make a case in court that TLC was breaching some kind of contract tied to the family's image rights. But the network's response, they basically said, "We're done funding your chaos." And honestly, that's kind of poetic justice, because let's be real, Kody built this empire around being the charming, confident patriarch, but that charm wore off years ago. And now, with Christine thriving, Janelle independent, and Meri quietly rebuilding her life, the only storyline left was Robyn crying about how no one likes her. TLC can't sell that anymore. So yeah, that's where we're starting. Robyn's contract was cancelled. Kody in court. And a very public breakdown that could possibly finally answer to the world who he really is. So before we get to the whole shebang of Kody's court breakdown, I want to make one thing clear. There is all this buzz out there that Robyn's contract wasn't really cancelled, but instead revised. Folks are saying that TLC will offer her a redemption arc. Nope, that is not what is happening here. Let's take a step back. For years, TLC protected Robyn like she was the golden child of Sister Wives. She got more screen time, soft edits, and storylines that repeatedly showed her being the peacemaker. But this is what fans picked up on. Whenever things were in opposition, Robyn was whining, gaslighting, or being the victim. It became routine. The viewers stopped sympathizing with her and started calling her out. And TLC hears numbers, not tears. Now, the timing of everything is apparent. After Christine's spin-off success and the massive audience goodwill she is getting, the producers figured out that the fans want real growth, not old drama. Christine's story is fresh. She is dating, she is laughing, she is free. Robyn's story. Just more crying in the big house. Here is where things get insane though. From a source who works around the production crew, there has been backroom tension for months. Kody's been trying to get producers to put him and Robyn in the spotlight more. He believes the core family needs to stay the main focus of the show. Producers have reportedly had it up to here with his issues of control though. When he started threatening to walk off set unless they shot what he wanted, that is when Robyn's contract became relevant. And what seems to have happened is TLC needed to experiment. They filmed some episodes without Robyn to see how viewers would respond, and shock horror. The engagement was boosted. Fans stuck around longer. Twitter lost its mind. People loved seeing the other wives take back the spotlight. That is when the network started to quietly pull Robyn's guaranteed appearance clauses. It wasn't a one-night fluke, it was strategic. By the time Kody realized what was happening, it was too late. His family narrative was lost, and his last loyal confidant was suddenly expendable. And that is where everything started to go wrong, because Kody, being Kody, could not just let it be. Instead, he did what he always does. He turned it into a war. He attempted to battle TLC in court, arguing the network owed Robyn protection due to the way the show represented her. But in court, that argument didn't quite turn out as he hoped. Ok besties. Let's get into the segment everyone has been waiting for, Kody's dramatic courtroom moment. Because what went down that day? It was not a legal drama alone, it was flat-out emotional chaos. So picture this, Kody steps into the Flagstaff courthouse, trying to show confidence, the sunglasses, the button-down, the same hair he never gets trimmed. He is there to argue that TLC violated an implied contract when they chose not to renew Robyn's solo contract for Season 1. And he is not coming quietly. Witnesses say he was pacing the hallway even before the hearing started, muttering about betrayal and family rights. According to what people in the courtroom shared, it started on a friendly note. His lawyer tried to spin it as a pro, claiming the Browns were long-time contributors to the network's success, and TLC had benefited from their personal struggles. But when the judge asked for specific contract terms, Kody started to break. He interrupted. He begged. He wandered on how the network edited him to look like a villain and how Robyn's reputation was destroyed by internet trolls. He once slammed his fist on the table and bellowed, "They used us for ratings and now they're throwing away my wife like garbage." Silence followed. Even Robyn, who was sitting behind him, looked stunned. Now the interesting part is that TLC's attorney did not protest strongly even. They just grabbed a stack of documents that showed each of the family members had separate deals, which were negotiated in and of themselves. That means that Robyn's deal was hers alone. If the network failed to re-sign it, that was their choice. Kody tried to spin it as a betrayal by his family, but the justice system doesn't work on emotions. When the judge told him to let his attorney do the talking, Kody reportedly muttered under his breath, "Nobody ever lets me speak." That is when you could feel the whole room pivot, because this wasn't really about a television contract. This was control. What Kody's losing piece by piece for years. He couldn't control Christine walking out. He couldn't control Janelle shutting down. He couldn't control Meri coming out of the darkness. And now even TLC, the network that made his brand, wasn't hearing him anymore. Robyn, however, cried, not the quiet kind, but full-blown sobs. A court clerk even offered her tissues. And Kody, he swung from furious to crushed in minutes. When the judge finally rendered judgment that the case was not eligible for hearing, it was all over. That was the day Kody Brown lastly realized his television empire, and the power he wielded through it was crumbling. Okay, besties, now let's get to what happened after Kody's breakdown in the courtroom, because the story does not end with him departing that courthouse dejected. In fact, the real drama starts when the cameras stopped rolling. So of course, as soon as they got back home, or whatever the mansion is that Robyn lives in, Kody was emotionally drained. And I mean drained in the way that he couldn't even get a sentence out without pausing, scrunching his face up in frustration, and sighing heavily. Sources show that Robyn tried to comfort him, i.e. her default move, but this time did not succeed. Kody was not listening to her. He was pacing around. He was complaining about betrayal. He was reciting all that had been said in court, as if TLC personally slandered him and his leadership. Robyn, meanwhile, she wasn't necessarily celebrating, but there was this strange mix of relief and nervousness. Relief because, finally, after all those years, she knew that she didn't need TLC's approval to enjoy her life. Anxiety because Kody was spinning, and that spin always has a way of pulling everyone else into it. There's a reason why the other wives have, over the years, built walls when he does this, and honestly, the house apparently tensed up fast. Janelle and Christine were sharing these side glances, somehow telegraphing to each other, "Here we go again." Meri naturally hovered in the background, shaking her head and thinking, how is he still acting like this in 2025? But here is the surprise. The drama didn't stay contained within the house. When the news of the court session and Kody's meltdown broke out, social media totally went haywire. Fans were divided, of course. Some were like, Kody showing emotion at last is proof that he is human. Others were merciless. That is why you are so hot-headed when you act like a dictator for years. And a lot of people were asking, so what does this say for Robyn? Is she safe from his manipulation now? TLC, however, was mum, no statement, no press release. Just the contract changes slinking around behind the scenes. and that is the strategic move. They know that letting Kody lose his mind in front of everyone without ever opening their mouth simply creates more interest for viewers. It is slow burning for eyeballs. So tensions had been building high in the house. Social media was buzzing, and Kody's sense of control had been completely shattered by the end of said day. The wives all started to realize that the dynamic had shifted, and Robyn, unbeknownst to her, was the pivot in this family dynamic shift. Oh besties. Now let's discuss Robyn, because while Kody was walking back and forth and losing it in the home, Robyn was having an entirely different type of experience. And in a real way, it is one we haven't actually gotten to see her really deal with on television yet. So here's the thing. Those close to Robyn have confirmed that at first she was shocked, like really surprised. She didn't expect that TLC would actually cut back on her contract, and seeing Kody behave the way he did made everything feel more heavy-handed. But as soon as the shock began to wear off, she began to feel a sense of freedom. Strange, huh? Robyn, who has spent years identifying herself by the approval of Kody and as the favorite wife, suddenly saw that possibly her value isn't determined by the network or Kody's approval. She allegedly sat in the living room for hours just contemplating, and here is the absolutely fascinating part. She was not crying tears of sadness. No, these were reflective tears. Tears that come when you suddenly discover a door you had no idea was there opening up. Robyn's always been the peacemaker, the one who mediates, the one who gives and gives so Kody can be happy. But with TLC going, the narrative that consumed her life is slowly disappearing. And for the first time, she can actually sense that she has control. And naturally, let's not leave out tension with Kody. While she got a taste of independence, she also felt guilty. Guilty because she saw the man she has been involved with for decades crumble in court. Guilty because she was worried about the fallout from fans or the press. Guilty because change is scary even when it is for your own good. And that is what makes Robyn such a fascinating person to watch. Now, I have to say, as a viewer, watching Robyn in this capacity is kind of weird. We've had decades of watching her be the emotional pillar, always defending Kody no matter what, and now, we're seeing the flip side, undefined, the quiet strength emerging when she doesn't have to perform for the cameras or Kody's ego. It is subtle, but trust me, it is potent. And here is some insider information. Apparently, she even texted Janelle and Christine following court, something like, "I don't know what is next, but I feel free." That is the Robyn we haven't seen in a long time, introspective, autonomous, and tentatively optimistic. Okay guys, now let's shift the attention to the other sister wives, because let me tell you, they were observing it all unravel like vultures. And their reactions, in all honesty, are just as interesting, if not more insightful, as Kody's courthouse meltdown. Pleading with Janelle, she allegedly donned a humble grin on her face while Kody lost his marbles. She has always been one to listen before she speaks, and in this instance, she was able to read the writing on the wall. Janelle knows the network. She knows the viewers, and she knows Kody. She has figured out that to allow him to spin his wheels emotionally does more damage to himself than to anybody else. Sources say that Janelle actually said to Christine and Meri after the hearing, "Finally, maybe he's seeing what we've been living with for years." That's classic Janelle, calm, analytical, and just a little satisfied that the tables might be turning. Christine, on the other hand, was more openly amused. She's been the one gaining momentum in her own life, from her dating storylines to her new ventures outside the family. Watching Kody struggle in court as Robyn pivoted her new clarity apparently vindicated her. She even laughed at a friend off camera. Guess someone finally flipped the script. Christine's guffaw wasn't malicious, it was one of relief. Relief that at last the decades-long power imbalance in the family may be rectified. Meri typically sat backstage, but don't underestimate her. She is like the master strategist. Reports say that she watched the courtroom hearing and the events that followed with great interest, noting even a minute shift in Kody's mood. Meri has always been careful, guarded in her response, polite but firm when the situation demands it. And this experience gives her new insight into how the family dynamics are shifting. For the first time in a long time, she might even find herself in the place of being powerful, at least emotionally. And the subtextual exchanges among the wives after the court theatrics. While Kody was exploding, They were talking game plans, renegotiating their own deals, and strategizing how to navigate the next season without getting sucked into his drama. There is a reason why TLC has been filming more of the other wives lately. The viewers want to hear their stories, and the women know it. What is compelling here is the conflict between empathy and empowerment. They all adore Kody. He is, after all, their husband. But they also realize the necessity of stepping back, letting him feel consequences, and most importantly, reasserting their own agency. Okay, besties, now let's pull back the curtain and talk about what TLC thinks, because this isn't all about Kody's meltdown or Robyn's contract. The network does have a strategy, and it is fascinating to watch how they're implementing it. Members of the production suggest that TLC has been quietly re-evaluating Sister Wives for several years. They've noticed evolving viewer interest. People aren't tuning in to watch Kody cry or Robyn act peacekeeper anymore. They want new narratives, real empowerment, and real drama that isn't scripted. And let's be honest, after 20 seasons, some of the original family dynamics were starting to feel stale. Apparently, TLC's decision to cancel or reduce Robyn's guaranteed appearances wasn't impulsive. It was deliberate. They tested the waters by filming episodes that focused more on Christine's independence, Janelle's personal life, and Meri's quieter but evolving journey. Viewer engagement skyrocketed. People loved seeing the other wives take control of their narratives. And the kicker is, the very fact that Robyn wasn't in some of these episodes made those episodes more interesting. From the network perspective, this is gold. They're shaking up the storyline so they're less about Kody's ego and more about the women's agency. Kody's breakdown. Secondary. The network doesn't want to fund someone who is constantly struggling against evolution, especially when the viewers are clearly reacting positively to the development of the other wives. Now, where it gets interesting, TLC also wanted to keep optics. Robyn still has a base. A lot of viewers feel loyal to her because she has been the anchor wife for so long. So instead of cutting her off completely, TLC quietly renegotiated her deal. It is not a public. We fired her moment subtler, fewer promised screen minutes, more focus on where her story intersects with the others. The network's hope? Get her committed enough to supply continuity but not so committed as to make the show static. And the producers get to have their cake and eat it too, apparently, Kody's meltdown in court. That is the kind of tension reality television thrives on. It is real life, high stakes, and it is a story of consequences. Kody's domination of the family and the narrative have been unchallenged for decades. This gives TLC the opportunity to showcase a shifting power dynamic. So really, the network is not attacking Robyn or Kody, they're remaking the show to make it authentic. The women are becoming more autonomous, and Kody is losing the control he has maintained for years. Ok friends, now let's dive into what happened behind closed doors after that courthouse drama. Because Kody didn't just leave the courthouse and move on with his life. No, it really gets interesting. And, I must say, a bit sad if you think about it here. In the days following the hearing, sources say that Kody was suffering in ways we've never quite seen him on television before. He walked for hours back and forth through the house replaying every argument, every moment in court, wondering what went wrong. The family members tell us that he was furious, perplexed, and yes, desperate to regain some semblance of control again. And this is something Kody's entire identity has always been based on the persona of the patriarch. He is the head honcho, the patriarch of the family, the guy who calls the shots. But when Robyn's contract is renegotiated and TLC discreetly shifts its focus to the other wives, it is not just a loss of contract, it is a threat to his whole persona. Suddenly, the world is no longer all about him anymore. That can be hard to handle, especially when he has spent decades in the center of attention. Apparently, he tried various ways of coping. He reached out to Robyn, trying to convince her to fight back with him. He reached out to the executives at TLC, requesting a rethink, and he even tried to rally the other wives, trying to get them on his side. But here is where the rules changed. They're not subservient followers anymore. Christine demurred politely. Janelle, calm as ever, reminded him that each of them has their own contracts and decisions. And Meri, well, Meri stayed quiet, observing, probably thinking, this is exactly the moment we've been waiting for. The private texts and calls that leaked. Not scandalous, but enough to understand the tension, show Kody venting, explaining how unfair he thinks it all is. But the wives, and frankly the network, aren't giving him the responses he is accustomed to. It is a discomforting contrast to the past, when his threats and machinations always flexed everyone to his needs. And the psychic cost is evident. Insiders report he is losing sleep, second, guessing himself, and occasionally even wondering if the entire family setup he has built up over many decades is sustainable. This is not a television show plot. This is Kody having to accept that his control is slipping away and that the family he relied on to define him might not be willing to play along anymore. Oak besties. Now let's talk about Robyn because honestly, she is in the most intriguing place presently. While Kody is frantic, pacing, and trying to rally support, Robyn is quietly having what sources are referring to as a moment of clarity. Sources within the family report that Robyn has been reflecting on decades of her life with Kody. The moments she placed herself last, the concessions she made for peace, and the moments she tried to solve problems that weren't hers to fix. And lo and behold, with TLC stepping back, she is seeing a new path. For the first time ever, she is considering her own narrative instead of being an appendage to Kody's story. Lately, it appears as though she has been sharing with friends behind the camera and embracing part of her always longed for independence. She wishes to be remembered for her own decisions, her own self, and not as the peacekeeping wife alone. The shift is subtle but is seismic in a home that has spent decades constructing Kody as the linchpin. What is interesting particularly is the way she is managing the guilt. She still loves Kody, of course, but she is learning to delineate his meltdown and her emancipation. There is this sense that she is finally allowing herself to feel relief without shame, a strange and foreign feeling to a woman who spent decades of her adult life attempting to maintain someone else's veneer. And let's face it, the audience is devouring it. There is a serene strength in witnessing Robyn realize she doesn't need to cry, beg, or plead to hold her place. She is able to assert herself firmly and quietly, and that is something we haven't really seen from her on camera yet. She is learning to reclaim the story, to talk back in her own voice, without necessarily creating a dramatic confrontation. Some sources even suggest that she is planning strategically about what is to come on TLC and the show. How is she able to show up without becoming entangled in Kody's drama? How does she demonstrate her own development without sacrificing her relationships? And most of all, how does she walk into a role that will feel real to her, not merely written for television? It is that emotional accounting that makes this scenario so compelling. Kody is disintegrating in court and behind the scenes while Robyn is quietly working behind the scenes, learning and finding herself in ways that have the power to totally redefine the family dynamic. Everybody is besties. Now let's dive into the world of the fans, because if you thought the drama inside the house was crazy, social media has turned it up 1,000%, and indeed the tweets are all about it. Some expected, others downright side-splitting. First, Twitter lost it. People were live, tweeting courtroom theatrics, the emotional breakdown, and even Kody's walking before the hearing. Number Robyn freed, number Kody meltdown, and number sister wives drama were some of the trending topics within hours. Some of the fans empathized, saying, "It is hard to watch Kody lose it, but maybe this is a wake-up call." Others were cruel. Finally, the show isn't kidding anymore. Instagram reels and stories were full of photos of Robyn smiling silently, compared to Kody's shouting courtroom antics. Memes appeared overnight. Kody face-palming, Robyn sipping T-Boss, and labels like, "When your contract is up and your ego can't handle it." Seriously, it is internet reality television culture in its glory. Then there is YouTube, where reaction channels have been overflowing with views. Viewers are breaking down every second of Kody's meltdown, pacing, hand gestures, even tone. Commentary angles are doing hour-long deeps, analyzing his failure to rally support and how that might affect next season. The fans are obsessed with Robyn's calm comparison, how she can keep her cool while he is falling apart. Reddit boards are also compelling. Fans are wondering if Robyn will finally come out of Kody's shadow for good, and if the network will shift focus to Janelle, Christine, or even Meri. Rumors are rampant about the show's future. Will it continue without Kody as the patriarchal figure of the show? Will Robyn ever have a grasp of her own plotline? And then, of course, the conspiracy theories commenced. Some fans are speculating this courtroom drama was stage, managed to some degree to test viewer reactions. Others are guessing that TLC is building Kody's collapse as a narrative surprise, submarining the show to focus more on the women's growth and less on Kody's narcissism. That is amazing, is the emotional investment. Undefined Defins aren't watching for just entertainment. They're rooting for the women to reclaim their empowerment. Audiences are commending Robyn's strength and restraint, criticizing Kody's breakdown, and sharing their own personal insight about autonomy, authority, and responsibility in relationships. Outright besties, take a step back and think about what this implies for Kody in the long run, because if you think this courtroom meltdown was an aberration, forget it. This could have some serious long-term consequences for him, both on and off television. First, think about where he stands on the show. For years, Kody has been positioned as the central patriarch, the emotional anchor, the guy holding the family together. But his recent breakdown highlights something that viewers and insiders have been noticing for a while. His authority is slipping. Ratings are shifting toward the other wives. The audience is more invested in Christine's independence and Meri's quiet strength, and even Janelle's storyline is gaining traction. TLC has the numbers, and the numbers don't lie. Kody is no longer center stage. This isn't just about ratings, it is about narrative. The family landscape is changing. With Robyn's contract having been reduced and Kody's public meltdown, his image as the unbendable patriarch is officially broken. Fans are starting to see his weaknesses, his need for control, and quite frankly, his inability to grow. And once the viewers see a crack in a character like that, it is difficult to recover. Second, there is the dynamics of relationships. Kody's relationships with the wives are now being put to the test in ways they've never been tested before. Robyn's independence and quiet empowerment could encourage the other wives to stand up more firmly. Janelle and Christine know already that they can hold their own, and Meri is watching strategically. If Kody tries to continue with dictating the narrative, he may find the wives no longer cooperating. This may engender more drama, but more drama that the audience really wants to see, which is perhaps rather ironic insofar as Kody used to be in control of the drama meter himself. Third, there is public perception. Kody's breakdown, filmed and uploaded by the fans, exposes a very human but very vulnerable side of him. Some of his supporters sympathize for sure, but others are grumpy. The social media world doesn't have a short memory, and footage of him pacing, yelling, and begging in court are going to be shared for months, maybe years. This isn't a singular humiliation. It is part of the story now, and the show can't erase history. Finally, on a personal level, Kody will have to reassess his role in the family. This is a man who has built his identity around control and patriarchal authority. The wives asserting independence and TLC elsewhere, Kody's influence over how he leaves his legacy is diminishing. How he moves forward from here will be determined. Will he grow, or will he cling to what is past? Alright, besties, now let's focus on Robyn, because as Kody's world is falling apart, she has a chance that she might finally seize, and honestly, this can be a game changer for her on the show. Sources say that since the court drama, Robyn has been secretly scheming. She has been weighing her brand, her draw, and how she can collaborate with TLC's shifting priorities. She has been reactive all these years, always reacting to Kody's needs, other wives' actions, and network needs. But now she can be proactive. Problems in the past have existed concerning Robyn's push to create a brand and establish an image for herself without compromising the integrity of her personality. She doesn't need to be the bad guy or the person who turns on Kody for no reason. Instead, she is showing subtle empowerment, being secure in herself, making her own decisions, and having the cameras witness her true reactions. Even small things, like solving issues calmly at family gatherings or talking when she feels like saying something, are being highlighted as dramatic new developments in her narrative. Above that, Robyn could play TLC's need for fresh narratives to her benefit. The network has already witnessed how the viewers respond positively towards independence, expansion, and mild changes in family dynamics. Through being shrewd about how she presents herself, she can remain in the game while repositioning the audience's perception. This is not rebellion itself. This is about strategic strength and intelligent storytelling. And here is the catch, insiders. report that she is also thinking about how she deals with the other wives. Instead of siding with Kody, she is secretly siding with Janelle, Christine, and even Meri in small ways, and creating a support system that leaves her free to act without fear of being shunned. That is something we haven't seen Robyn do in a very long time. Finally, the final power play is restraint. While Kody has publicly dismantled, Robyn is carefully choosing her moments. Every scene, every dialogue, and every conversation is a calculated step towards the recovery of agency, not just over the cameras, but over her life. Maybe, besties, we're on the verge of a Robyn Brown renaissance. Kody may be disintegrating in court right before our eyes, but behind the scenes, Robyn may well be quietly taking over her story, and the network seems happy to let her do so. Fine, besties. Okay, now let's take a step back and talk about the big picture. Yes, the future of sister wives. Because with Robyn's contract changes and Kody's meltdown, the landscape of the show could look completely different moving forward. First, the network's perspective. TLC has made it clear through subtle moves that the focus is shifting. Christine's independence, Janelle's personal growth, and Meri's quiet evolution are resonating with audiences far more than Kody's control-based drama ever did. By reducing unguaranteed Robyn appearances, TLC is taking the cue that they want new visions, actual empowerment, and storylines that are dynamic rather than repetitive. The audience has already reacted positively to the change. Fans adore seeing the other wives in more lead roles. Social media reaction, YouTube analysis, and online forum postings all suggest that people are craving a different era, an era where Kody is not the default focal point. And in all fairness, that is exciting, because it creates so much potential for narrative, sibling dynamics, individual character arcs of development, conflicts solved through strategy rather than drama. And yes, the occasional Kody meltdowns to remind us how precarious his patriarchal hold has become. For the family dynamic, this is central. Kody can no longer take total control of the narrative. Robyn, with her newfound independence, could start to find her voice in ways she never has. Christine and Janelle are already winners in their own storyline. And Meri, ever the quiet game player, is likely observing and waiting for her next move. The dynamics of power within the family have shifted, and it will be fascinating to see how this impacts drama on television from a storytelling standpoint. TLC is able to create a more engaging, complex show. Less predictability, greater emotional depth, and characters that are real, flawed, evolving, and unapologetically themselves. And while Kody may battle this change, his reactions alone are now part of the plot tension. Finally, the potential for audience growth is enormous. Audiences love transformation plots, empowerment stories, and even a little destruction. By recalibrating the focus toward the women and showing Kody's vulnerability, TLC is essentially revitalizing sister wives for a modern audience, while maintaining the core family drama that fans have loved for years. Alright, besties, we've reached the final part of this saga, and honestly, this is where everything comes together. If you thought the courtroom meltdown, the individual crises, and the contract fiasco were over the top, believe me, the emotional ante gets raised big time. Let's start with Kody. After the court hearing, the frantic running around, the mumbling the do or die attempts to regain control, he is faced with the stark reality that his control over the narrative and the family is slipping. For the first time, he can't rely on TLC to stand up for his name, he can't rely on Robyn to defend him, and he can't intimidate the other wives into submission. This isn't a plot for a television show. This is the deconstruction of decades of tightly wound power, and though it is hard to watch, it has to be Robyn. This could be a turning point for her life and for her story on Sister Wives. The network's decision to retrocede her contract is, in fact, a blessing. It gives her room to reimagine herself beyond Kody's shadow or the limitations of pre-established narratives. She is given the leeway to be independent, herself, and quietly reclaim the power she has postponed for so long to others. It is effective but understated, a victory of emotional intelligence and strategic thinking over flash. The other wives are all taking notice of this change. Christine, Janelle, and Meri already are adjusting to this new dynamic. Their storylines are becoming more front and center, and Kody's reactions, his helplessness, his anger, his desperation, are now part of the story that viewers are eating up. The family dynamic changes in the moment, tension simmering that can't be overlooked. From the viewer's perspective, this is quality television. The viewers are not only invested in the drama but the transitions. They're watching Robyn's unspoken strength grow, Christine and Janelle's strength, and Kody's patriarchal power slowly being dismantled. Social media is buzzing with commentary, analysis, and fan theories, all raising the stakes and continuing the conversation well after the cameras are turned off. So what does it all portend for next season of Sister Wives? Prepare for more complexity, more real moments, and a change of focus from Kody's ego to the changing lives of the women. Robyn's narrative is no longer confined, Kody's control is being challenged, and the viewers are more invested than ever. Besties, this is not just another season of Sister Wives. This is a turning point. The dynamics have been shifted, the network made their voice heard, and the family, for better or worse, will never be the same. Thanks so much for tuning in, and share your opinions in the comments below. Who is going to come out on top in this new age? Will Kody adapt, or is his meltdown the start of things to come? And Robyn, is this the start of her ultimate redemption? Can't wait to hear your thoughts.